Hi everyone. I'll be continuing the series I started entitled How I Overcame the Lies That I Believed. Today I'll be focusing on the following lie. Joy only comes when my problem is solved. A passage of scripture that most of us have quoted or at least heard is found in the latter part of Nehemiah chapter 8 verse 10. It says, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." Let me ask you a question. If the joy of the Lord is your strength, when do you need strength? At the end of a battle or during a battle? You're absolutely correct. You need joy during a battle. You need joy and strength in the midst of the challenges and the struggle that you are experiencing right now. That's why today's lie is a lie, because today's lie says joy only comes when my problems are solved. In other words, it is saying joy only comes when my battle is over. But what is the point of joy then? If the joy of the Lord is your strength, you need strength during a battle, to sustain you during a battle, not at the end of a battle. Now, how do you receive the joy of the Lord? You receive the joy of the Lord by discerning the word that the Lord is speaking to you in the situation that you are facing. Then you must believe that word and live by that word. And when you do that, you will immediately receive an impartation of joy and strength in the midst of whatever circumstance you are facing. One of the greatest examples in the Bible of someone who actually practically demonstrates this principle in their lives is Hannah, found in 1 Samuel chapter 1. Hannah had a passionate desire to have children, but she was barren. The Lord closed the womb. And she was one of two wives of her husband Elkanah. And the second wife of her husband was Peninnah. Peninnah had many children. Just put yourself in Hannah's shoes. She sees her rival, Peninnah, having so many children, and she can't even have one child. She can't even have the one thing that she desperately wants. And as a result, she became depressed to the point that she didn't want to eat anything. And in this state of depression, Hannah went to the temple and cried out to the Lord. And she said, "Lord, if you give me a son, I will give him back to you. I will dedicate him as a Nazirite to you for your purposes." And then Eli said, who was the high priest at that particular time, he said, "May the Lord grant your request." The interesting thing that I want to point out in this story is that before Hannah went to the temple to pray, she didn't want to eat and she was depressed. But after her prayer, after the high priest Eli declared that the Lord will grant her request, you know what happened? 1 Samuel chapter 1 verse 18 declares that Hannah started eating again and her face was no longer downcast. In other words, she was no longer depressed. Now I've got a question for you. Did anything change in the natural in Hannah's life? Did she suddenly have a child? No, nothing changed. She didn't suddenly conceive a child after she prayed. No. What happened was she believed the word of the Lord. And because she believed the word of the Lord, immediately her state changed. Immediately she received the impartation of the joy of the Lord in the midst of a struggle, in the midst of a circumstance. And what happened? There was clear physical evidence of that impartation of the joy of the Lord. And what was that? She started eating again, and she was no longer depressed. Her face was no longer downcast. Physical evidence of that attitude change because she believed the word of the Lord. It was only months later that Hannah conceived and bore the child named Samuel. But she didn't receive joy only when Samuel was born. She received an impartation of joy the moment she believed the word of the Lord. So her state changed immediately. And that strength that was imparted to her sustained her to the manifestation of the word of the Lord when Samuel was born. So don't believe the lie that joy only comes when your problems are solved. You can receive an impartation of joy in the midst of the challenge and the circumstance you're facing right now. Just open yourself to the word that the Lord is speaking to you. Believe it and live by it. and then immediately you will receive the joy of the Lord that will be your strength.